On the side of the Hayu Marca Mountain near Lake Titicaca in southern Peru is a giant rock carving known as the Aramu Muru doorway. Join us on Aliens Explored as we discuss what some have claimed to be the real Stargate, the Peruvian gate of the gods, through which an Inca high priest was once said to have been transported to escape the pursuing conquistadores. This episode of Aliens Explored is dedicated to our explorer of the week, DEE NANDWANI, who supports us through our Patreon. Check out our Patreon at patreon.com/Aliens Explored and find a tier that suits your pocket.
Aliens Explored is a weekly podcast exploring famous and obscure cases of UFO sightings, alien abductions and other strange events from both a believing and a skeptical perspective whilst keeping an open mind. I'm Stu Jackson, a professional actor and amateur ufologist with a particular interest in the crop circle phenomenon. I'll be debating that otherworldly visitations are real. The truth is out there.
And I'm Neil Kelly. I'm a professional actor as well and used to work for the military as an intelligence analyst. I'll be arguing from a more doubtful point of view. I mean, it's all a bit far-fetched, isn't it?
Welcome back, listeners, to another episode of Aliens Explored, your weekly podcast looking at UAPs and UFOs from high in the skies above us, from deep in the depths of the sea, and who knows, maybe even other dimensions. I am one of your hosts, Stu Jackson.
And I'm your other host, Neil Kelly. You forgot to mention them coming knocking at your door as well. To tell you,
that was
to
last
tell you,
episode.
to tell you just the last episode, yeah.
Men in Black. That was an interesting discussion. How have you been keeping anyway, Neil?
Yeah, very well, thanks. Still enjoying my long weekend because we are recording this on the 10th of April.
We are, and do you know what I mean? Even though it's only Easter at the moment, or Astara, or even Easter, if you prefer. I prefer the original pagan names. But even though we're right at the beginning of I've already, I've been booked for my Christmas gig already this year, Neil.
Have you?
Yes. Now I know we were talking about this a short while ago. I think you were thinking about applying the same.
Well, yes, I got in touch. I got in touch with the guy who's given you a job and who'd given me a job a couple of years ago, and he said, isn't that funny? You know, you hear nothing from any Father Christmases for months on end, and then suddenly two come at the same time. Yeah, isn't that funny?
Isn't it funny when they're good friends and talk to each other weekly?
Yeah, and yes, and but I don't think he knows that. I don't know how that we do.
Well, you recommended me to him.
I did recommend you,
place.
But I wonder if he's forgotten that, or he doesn't realise how often we talk to each other, or what have you.
Perhaps.
But, maybe he's sus that. I didn't mention it. It's sus that it's as a result of us both having had a conversation. He said he's got to wait. He wants to give priority to people who worked there last year, although there may be some room. And then he said there might be an opportunity up in Derby, and I thought, no, I don't fancy that. I don't really fancy going to stay up in Derby. But also, there's been
the
a
races. No.
Yeah. It's not the Kentucky Derby. It's actually the town of Derby up in the Midlands.
They've got a race course up there.
Have they?
Yeah.
Well, down here I could go to Kempton Park or Epsom or
Newbury. Yeah.
Newbury, yeah.
Newbury's just up the road. Yeah. Anyway.
Well, yeah, from where Janet grew up, that's why they were always going up with jockeys. These guys who barely came up to their shoulders. But my current job, everything is still rumours. and they are converting the games that we work on to work on a different basis with fewer people. But the latest rumour I heard is that they're not going to dispense with Mr. Monopolies for these games. So,
Right.
well, still wait and see what gets offered to us.
I know you and I, we have a different sort of view and attitude towards our craft. And I mean, I would struggle kind of doing the same thing repeatedly several times a day, as you do with Mr. Monopoly. I mean, it's okay for the other Christmas roll because it's like, I know that's only temporary. And each encounter is different, as we know.
Yeah.
But you're basically saying the same script over and over again several times a day, aren't you?
The script is the same, but I improvise around it, so that will always be be different. And when I say several times a day, usually it's 3 or 4 times in an 8-hour, 9-hour day. So
that's a lot of sitting around waiting in the middle.
Well, there's the finales as well. So there'll be maybe 8 audience interactions in an 8-hour day. Yeah, it's not much work, and the job is close to hand. It's I know that if I gave it up and threw myself back onto the mercy of whatever jobs I can get, I'll be having to get up at the crack of dawn to get to some obscure place for a shoot.
Yeah, like Derby.
Like Derby. You got to. Can you get to Epping Forest, or can you get to Bushy, or apologies to anyone listeners who live in those places, but from where I am, they are quite distant and hard to get to in the early hours of the morning. Yeah. So this job is just easy. And travel is the distance to work. We're talking 35, maybe 40 minutes door to door, literally, and zero cost. So, that's got some. Most of the people who I joined with who gave it up after their first contract expired, they were people who were travelling long distances, spending an awful lot of time travelling, and a large part of what they earn travelling.
Wouldn't it be really handy if on your doorstep you just had a doorway or if you just put a golden disc into it, it created a portal to wherever you needed to be rather than having to make all that travel?
Wouldn't that be handy? Yes.
Yeah, that's
rather than a 15 minutes sat on the London Underground reading doing the crossword in the free paper. Yeah, I would find this amazing stone doorway, and I would insert my gold disc, and it would open, and I'd be transported, hopefully to somewhere more exotic than just a job.
Monopoly Live
where I work.
Well, that, in case you can't tell, listeners, was my subtle segue into today's topic, where we are talking about the Peruvian Gate of the Gods, also known as Aramu Muru, also known as the real Stargate.
Well,
so we're familiar with the movie.
I imagine ever since they brought out a movie called Stargate, this one got renamed The Real Stargate.
Yeah. Well, this the Gate of the Gods was discovered in the 90s. I think it was after Stargate came out, so it was discovered around 96.
Yeah, looks like it.
So, so I think
1996.
That's after Stargate came out.
Local tour guide Jose Luis Delgado Mamani stumbled upon the structure in 1996.
Yes. So what it is for our listeners who are not familiar with it, it's a carving in a big. It's basically like a big sort of cliff face. Is it 23 foot square in a T-shaped? Oh, sorry, it's 23 foot or about 7 meters square carving in the side of this. This, I think it's granite, is it? Or it's certainly some sort of stone.
Don't know if it is granite, but
cliff face, I want to call it. But it's got a T-shaped niche measuring 6 feet and 6 inches tall, carved into it. And the legend goes that an Incan priest had a golden disc that fell from the skies, and when he placed it into this doorway, it opened a portal to another world. It's also been rumoured that the gods came out of there to explore the kingdom of man. But yeah, this priest basically disappeared. It's a portal. It's a real Stargate, Neil.
It's a carving in a wall, mate. Which some people have attributed magical, supernatural properties to. The story goes, it was at the time of the conquistadores. It said that while evading the Spanish, an Inca priest named Aramu Muru took a golden solar disc known as the Key of the Gods of Seven Rays that was kept in Coricancha Temple in Cusco. He carried it 450 kilometers, that's 280 miles, from the temple to the stone doorway, placed the disc in the door, and then, acting as a portal, the doorway allegedly opened. The priest passed through it and disappeared.
Yeah, but the legends about it and stories about it go back way hundreds of years before that, predating the Incans themselves.
Do they, though?
Yes.
Is it documented, or is it?
I'm going to say yes. Yes, that's yes. Here we go. Whilst little is known of the door's origin, it is believed to predate the Inca, with culturally significant tales of its uses coming from a number of Native American communities. So it's not just the one source. We're talking about a variety of Native American sources talking about this same place, all with the same story, that it's this portal, that it's this gateway.
Sorry, a variety of sources. I'm not seeing that. Just this story that an Incan priest placed a gold disc in the door, this niche in the rock, and caused it to open. Oh, the golden disc supposedly dropped from the sky.
Yes.
But according to the IFL Science website, they're saying, while believing the legend may offer a source of comfort for some, the story of Aramu Muru also serves as a stark reminder of the desperation felt by a civilization ravaged by and eventually lost to invading forces.
Okay, I can see why they would say that.
You can see that's a time of great crisis, a great stress. People are actually seeing their civilization destroyed by an invader. I mean, I've talked before about H.G. Wells's War of the Worlds, where he was saying, well, it was actually an allegory on colonialism.
Yes.
That what he describes are these strange craft landing and then these creatures killing everyone in sight. That's actually something within the human experience, and the Incas would have experienced that. These Spaniards arriving in ships that are way beyond anything they could have built themselves, and wiping them out. Basically plundering all their resources, and leaving smallpox in its place, which wiped them out.
Well, it's a historical consistency, isn't it? That whenever you've got one culture that is, I'll say, technologically more advanced than another, and the two meet, then the one that's less technologically advanced, generally speaking, when you've got mass interaction, just gets wiped out.
Yeah.
The
Incans also believe
or assimilated.
That Lake Titicaca, which is home to a number of indigenous communities, this is where the world was born and where your spirit returns after death. It's the largest freshwater lake in South America or Latin America. That must be pretty big. Don't know what the dimensions of that.
So yes, Lake Titicaca being quite close, and I'm doing my best to say that without laughing, because we've all we've all experienced the comedy sort of. Yes, what would be a funny name?
It sounds like a Frankie Howard's kind of joke, doesn't it? Lake Titicaca.
Matron. Yes.
No, stop it.
Quite. But yeah, so but yeah, it is. So you've got, as you say, lots of different tribes, cultures around the area, and they all got these stories about this particular Gate of the Gods.
So I've got this one story about a priest who took a gold disc that dropped from the sky, placed it in the
can't help you there,
used it as a key,
mate.
and disappeared. It opened and he disappeared. I mean, I imagine that what you would see if you went there would be a solid rock with a carving in it. The outline of a huge door, and then within that, actually a smaller door carved into it. But
a T-shaped door,
basically just not a door, a recess, just a little rectangular recess.
Within that T-shaped recess, there is a small circular indentation as well, carved out. Yeah, so it's got this small round depression that could take a golden disc. And what do we think this golden disc would represent then? What, it's fallen from the skies. That sounds to me like technology. It's even called the key. Like I said, key of the gods of seven rays.
I mean, it looks like an awful lot of work went into this. I mean, feasibly, it could have been done by one person over a long period of time. But yeah, I don't know what that rock is made of. If it's granite, that would have been really hard work.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I'm saying granite. I'm going to backtrack on myself there very quickly and say, actually, I don't think it is granite. It looks to me like sandstone, which is actually really easy to carve. To be fair,
yeah,
it's very soft and porous, as stones go.
Because I was thinking, could that be the end wall of a building? Someone decided, oh no, we'll build a temple, or we'll build a church here or something, and we'll make it out of wood. But actually, this flat bit of rock right there would make a good end wall for it, and we'll just carve a couple of lines, because basically it is just each side, isn't it? That this square is marked out by. I mean, the area is flat. It's been, but the rock next to it is as well. But it's basically just two trenches carved on either side. Can't see anything carved in the top. And then a door. So it's just like a castle door. That's what it looks like, a door within a door, doesn't it? A big door with a small door within it. I can't get any impression of scale, but I'm guessing that small door is big enough to go for a man to go through.
Well, the small door is 6'6".
Okay. So that's pretty big, isn't it? So
yeah.
So the whole thing is going to be about 20 feet high, but
it is 23 feet high.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is pretty big, even if it is sand. And everything I'm reading just says solid rock. It doesn't specify what type of rock, but even if it was sandstone, that would still be a hell of a feat. And I get what you're saying about, it might have had a wooden structure sort of coming from it, but I have to believe that it's been examined by enough archaeologists. They would have found traces of that, if that were the case.
Maybe, but also they would have found no trace that it has any kind of mechanical operating system, and isn't in any description a door. It doesn't open.
Maybe it's the gold disc that is the technological apparatus, and it's quite possible that, in fact, the Gate of the Gods itself is just a convergence of energies that work with the technological.
Yeah, Either
That
that
would
or
be
someone,
my...
for some reason, carved a few lines in a flat rock and a little doorway in between.
I mean, I feel that's kind of that's doing it a disservice. I've carved a few lines and a bit of rock. No, it's a big old
it's
structure.
mysterious, but it's mysterious because we're thinking, why would you do that? That's obviously a lot of work.
It's like
Why
saying
would you do
Stonehenge. Well, it's just a couple of rocks just stood up next to each other, isn't it?
Well,
it's accurate, but it's also
it's accurate. Yeah, it's rock stood up. We can see that. Yeah, it might have served some kind of purpose.
And same with this. You can definitely see it's purposeful.
I mean, there are standing stones all over the world, aren't there, that have been set up by ancient civilizations. And this, I mean, maybe, they did believe in this magical gateway, the gate of the gods. And, they believed that it would open, that it was the real gateway, and they would worship before it or whatever, but it's not actually a door. I mean, we've got things like that in Christian mythology, places where magic is supposed to happen. You can't see how it would. It would have to be magical for it to happen. But I'm trying to think of one off the top of my head. Places that are supposedly magical, things that don't look like doors, which can suddenly open if the right incantation is made or the right amulet applied in the right spot.
I'm suddenly reminded of the Arthur C. Clarke quote. That any civilization technologically advanced enough would seem like magic.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's the definition of magic, isn't it? It's technology that you don't understand.
So I don't see any reason. Now, this is an area known for its spirituality, known for its energy configurations. I can see this being a significant place to use certain technologies to create a portal, a wormhole, a doorway.
But couldn't it also be that maybe somewhere thousands of years ago, someone made these carvings in the rock for, say, the end wall of a building or something? Thousands of years later, there's obviously no trace of the rest of this building, which would have been made of wood or whatever. Made of materials which would have decomposed, blown away, or been taken away. But then myths sprung up that this was the gateway to the gods, and that they would truly believe that this was what it was. That's how legends start, isn't it? That someone one day says this is a magical gateway, and that gets incorporated into their religious beliefs, and they would, and then eventually someone will come up with the story of a priest actually using it and going through it.
I'm going to sort of address the whole kind of wooden structure thing, because I think maybe you don't realise just how much evidence of those is left for such a long time. Just down the road from Stonehenge, there is an older site. And bear in mind, Stonehenge is thousands of years old. But there is an older site called Woodhenge. And it's literally only a few miles away from Stonehenge. Now, there is nothing left of it because we are talking maybe 4,000 or 5,000 years old.
Yeah.
But archaeologists have identified that this is where a number of wooden posts were put in the ground at very specifically spaced intervals or circular patterns, very much like Stonehenge, but in wood rather than stone. Now, there's nothing left of the wood, but they still know where it was. They can still tell. Now, I'm no archaeologist, and I couldn't say how specifically they can tell, but if there was a wooden structure around the Gate of the Gods, I'm absolutely convinced they would have found evidence of it. Even, thousands of years old, they would have found evidence of it.
But wouldn't someone at one point have built some kind of structure? But if it's a holy place, you'd have built some kind of structure. You build your temple nearby, and that would fit into those slots. It's the right size, isn't it?
It is.
That's. I mean, wouldn't it make sense if you think that's the magical doorway? Well, let's build a temple and have the magical doorway as the at the back end of our temple. That's what we'll worship towards. That's what we'll cast our incantations. We'll go to church, and there's this. Sorry,
I hear you on it. I get exactly what you're saying, but there has been no evidence of that.
No,
and I'm convinced that
could have been taken away. Holes can get filled in, wood gets recycled or burned.
That would make a difference.
Or just rots over thousands of years.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's what happened with Woodhenge. It was like 5,000 years ago. The wood rotted, and there's still evidence today.
Yeah.
If it was removed, taken away, that would be a different thing.
Even if it was there beforehand and they decided this was a magical place, that they would have built a temple there, wouldn't they? Or would they have just turned up and knelt on the ground in front of it? Or would they have just stayed away from it? I don't know what their attitude towards it was.
Those are all excellent questions, but I think we're thinking in terms of temples and places of worship from a very Western perspective, because that's what we do, like with churches and cathedrals and things like that. That's how we think. That might not have been the case back then. Certainly you hear of a lot of sort of Native Americans just accepting that certain places are just spiritual. Certain places are, for want of a better word, holy. And that's it. They don't have to do anything with the place for it to be spiritual. It just is. So I think it's just a different mindset applying on that. But no, if I was going down a more kind of mundane route, I'd say this was an engineering project that got started, but was never finished.
Yeah.
I'm on board with that one. Tunneling into, the side of, into the rock, perhaps.
Yeah.
And certainly there are examples of that. But this, just to have achieved what they've achieved, is a massive engineering project.
It's just a bit of carving in the rock, isn't it? I mean, one person could have done it in a year or so.
You reckon?
Yeah, I reckon.
I wouldn't like to.
No, it'd be hard. It's hard work, yeah, but I'm not seeing it and saying, wow. I'm seeing it and saying, oh, I wonder what that was for. Wonder why they did that. But I'm not seeing something that...
I mean, the lines and channels either side, very straight.
Yeah.
Very straight.
So they knew how to use a plumb line.
Did they?
I would imagine, yeah.
You're saying that with an amount of knowledge there. With a lot of confidence.
Who was it? Did the Incas have pyramids?
They did. Famously so.
Yeah, and didn't they have places where they would chop people's heads off and send the heads rolling down the steps and to the sun god, or was that the Aztecs?
But this is allegedly predates the Incas, though.
Oh yeah.
And this is the thing: nobody knows actually how old it is. Which doesn't.
It's certainly interesting. It's certainly a kind of I wonder how old it is, and I wonder what it was for. But I think the last thing I'm reaching for is it's some kind of gateway to another world, except in a metaphorical sense. For a religious group.
I've just discovered something that I'm going to stand correct. So I'm saying, archaeologists would have discovered post holes or something like that. Actually, since its discovery, no further excavations have been done there because it is considered an ancient archaeological site and protected by the Peruvian government. So it might be that archaeologists haven't been allowed to check for things like that. So that's, So I'll stand corrected on that.
Well, not corrected, but it's just there's that doesn't mean that there is evidence there just because they haven't been allowed to look for it.
No, and I'm still not convinced on that. That whole temple thing is, like I said, that's a very Western.
I'm just doing my usual thing. I'm wondering at it. I'm wondering what it's for. I'm wondering what it is. But the last conclusion I'm reaching is that it's something magic.
It's interesting you've got these different stories talking about it being a portal from different sources, though.
Well, maybe one fed into the others. I don't know. Once the story starts, that's what it is. It looks like a door, so let's everyone reaches for that same idea. Religions aren't always that imaginative, are they?
I sense you're not going to be convinced on this one.
No, I mean, you see something that looks like a castle door, doesn't it? A big door with a little door inset in it, in the side of a rock, with obviously no kind of hinges or, it's, all that's behind it is solid rock. But I can imagine that someone's going to say, "Oh, yes, it's a magical door," because that's what it looks like.
It's interesting where the story of the golden disc, though, that's and falling from the sky. Why is it these things always fall from the sky? That's a consistency with these stories that I think to
shooting
visitors.
stars, meteorites. They see these things, and and then they see this meteorite one day, and then the next day the priest has vanished for some reason. And they, and there's someone say, that thing that fell from the sky, he took that and he went through the door with it.
All that was left was his smoking pair of sandals.
Bring me your offerings and worship me, because I saw it.
Well, I'll tell you what. Let's hear what the listeners think about the Peruvian Gate of the Gods, Aramu Muru. We'd love to hear what you think, whether it is indeed a mystical or magical portal to other realms, whether it's extraterrestrial technology for creating a wormhole, or if it's something rather more mundane and just maybe an unfinished engineering project. Do let us know what you think via the usual means. You can contact us through Facebook and Twitter by searching Aliens Explored. You can leave a comment on our YouTube channel. Links are below for all those things, as is our email address, aliensexplored@gmail.com. And if you are one of our Patreon subscribers, you get exclusive access to our Discord server, where you can chat about this and any other episode and kind of anything UFO, UAP related that takes your fancy, really, with like-minded people. So join us next time when we are going to be discussing the National Archives UFO project. Looking forward to that one. So in the meantime, keep watching out for wormholes and portals everywhere, and
magical and ancient monuments and people knocking at the door, of course.
And of course, keep watching the skies. Take care for now.
Catch you next time. Bye-bye.
Aliens Explored is a Figo Films production in association with Juicy Falls. Music by Darren Mafucci and editing by Stu Jackson. Find us on Twitter and Facebook by searching Aliens Explored or visit aliensexplored.com.